Romantic comedies have always been fascinated with time, missed chances, second chances, and the idea that love somehow exists beyond logic. But Eternity, the 2025 fantasy romantic comedy directed by David Freyne, dares to push that idea to its ultimate conclusion. What if love didn't just last a lifetime, but an eternity? Marrying a clever offbeat spin on the afterlife with infectious sweetness, Eternity feels like a spiritual successor to classic romantic screwball comedies, while still firmly grounded in modern emotional realism. It's bright, funny, philosophical, and occasionally a little indulgent, but when it works, it really works. Before diving into the film itself, Eternity has a surprisingly emotional real-world story behind it. The film is directed by David Freyne, who co-wrote the screenplay with Pat Coonahan. Just before the film was set to make its world premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival in September 2025, Freyne discovered he had a malignantly benign brain tumour. Despite the diagnosis, he was able to attend the Toronto premiere before undergoing a 10-hour surgery shortly afterwards. He then spent 6 weeks in recovery. It's one of the more moving moments tied to the film's release. Freyne attended the London premiere alongside 4 of the surgeons who operated on him, publicly thanking them from the stage. It's hard not to view Eternity, a film about life, death, love, and what remains, through this deeply personal lens. The film stars Elizabeth Olsen, Miles Teller, and Callum Turner, with standout supporting performances here from Divine Joy Randolph, John Early, and Olga Mercedes. Another great piece of trivia is Miles Teller and Divine Joy Randolph had the same agent and had been actively looking for a project to work on together for years before landing this film. Principal photography began on May 24th, 2024 in Vancouver and wrapped on July 5th, giving the film its lush, dreamlike yet grounded visual palette. At its core, Eternity follows Joan, played by Olsen, a woman who finds herself in the afterlife, faced with the impossible decision she must choose one person to spend eternity with. On one side, there is Larry, played by Miles Teller, her husband, the man she built a life with, weathered hardships with, and shared the mundane, unglamorous reality of marriage. On the other side is Luke, played by Callum Turner, her first love, who died young in the Korean War, frozen in time, untouched by aging, responsibility, or disappointment. It's a concept that immediately raises big questions. Is love about passion or longevity? Is a soulmate someone who you dream about or someone you grow with? Does lust fade? And if so, what's left? And ultimately, what makes a relationship real? Visually, Eternity is a delight. The production design is bright, fun, playful, leaning into color without being artificial. The afterlife isn't depicted as sterile or overly ethereal. Instead, it feels like a heightened extension of reality. The sparkling, colorful cinematography gives the film a warmth that matches its emotional intent. Freyne's direction is confident, particularly in the quieter, reflective moments. He allows scenes to breathe, sometimes perhaps a little too much. While the film's first and final acts are sharp and engaging, the middle section does drag slightly. A bit of tightening in the edit would have elevated the pacing significantly. That said, the slower moments are often where the film's philosophical weight resides, so it's a trade-off rather than a failure. Elizabeth Olsen once again proves just how versatile and underrated she can be. As Joan, she delivers a layered, conflicted performance that anchors the entire film. This is a character torn between ideals and reality, between who she once was and who she has become. Olsen feels particularly comfortable in these offbeat, quirky roles, and she navigates the tonal shifts beautifully, from comedy to grief to existential questioning. She brings warmth, intelligence, and vulnerability without ever tipping into melodrama. Her chemistry with both leads is strong, but in very different ways, and that contrast is crucial to the film's thematic core. Miles Teller is arguably the film's secret weapon. As Larry, he plays a man who is deeply of his generation, a man's man, if you will, in some respects, but also emotionally open, loyal, and grounded. Larry isn't a grand romantic. He doesn't deliver sweeping speeches or poetic declarations. What he offers instead is reliability, companionship, and genuine partnership. Teller gives Larry a lived-in quality. Their relationship feels like a real marriage, full of back and forth banter, shared history, and quiet understanding. You believe these two people have walked the highs and lows together. And that's where Eternity becomes quietly profound. It argues that real love isn't glamorous. Lust fades, passion changes. What remains, though, is friendship, patience, and the ability to grow alongside another person. Now, for me, where the film slightly stumbles is in the casting of Callum Turner here as Luke, Joan's first husband. He represents the youthful love, intense, passionate, and tragically unfulfilled. He died young, and in doing so remained idolized. While Turner gives a solid performance, he feels miscast. For a character meant to embody a charming, heroic, almost mythic first love, he lacks the necessary gravitas and magnetism. The chemistry between Luke and Joan intentionally is underdeveloped. They never had the chance to grow together. But even within the framework, Turner doesn't quite sell the romantic ideal he's supposed to represent. It's not that he's bad, he simply just doesn't have the presence needed for the role. On the other hand, Divine Joy Randolph is excellent here as Anna, Larry's Afterlife coordinator. She provides much-needed comic relief, but never undercuts the emotional weight of the story. Randolph has a gift for grounding humor and empathy, and her performance balances the film's heavier themes beautifully. Her scenes bring levity, warmth, and humanity, and it's no surprise as audiences responded strongly to her role. At its deepest level, Eternity isn't really about the afterlife. It's really about lust versus love, ideals versus reality, dreams versus life experienced. Luke represents the what-if, fantasy of perfect love, untouched by time. Larry represents reality, imperfect, sometimes frustrating, but deeply mutual and dimensional. The film asks whether love is about intensity or endurance, whether being in love is less important than being true friends, whether understanding, patience, and shared history matter more than passion. And most importantly, it encourages reflection. You can't help but examine your own relationship while watching this film, past, present, and imagined. Yes, Eternity could have been a little shorter and tighter. Yes, the casting of Callum Turner doesn't fully work for me, but these are relatively small flaws in an otherwise fascinating, heartfelt, and beautifully made film. With strong performances from Elizabeth Olsen and Miles Teller in particular, thoughtful direction, and a concept that lingers long after the credits roll, Eternity succeeds where it matters most. It makes you think, feel, and reflect. Eternity gets an 8.5 out of 10. This is a well-made, emotionally resonant romantic fantasy that proves love isn't about perfection. It's about choosing someone again and again, even if it is for eternity. So what did you think of Eternity? Please let me know down in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dive reviews.